Hello everyone, today I'm here to talk about The Voyage of the Dawn Treader by C.S. Lewis and my continuation of the Chronicles of Narnia series. So, just a quick recap, I thought The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was entertaining if a bit silly and very, very quick in some aspects. I wasn't a huge fan of Prince Caspian, to be honest, but I think The Voyage of the Dawn Treader is actually what really got me into the series. So publication-wise, this is the third book that was published. It is technically, chronologically, the fifth book in the series. I am reading them as the way they were published. So like I said, I really enjoyed it. It was an adventurous book. It's just about Prince Caspian and all his friends sailing as far as they can away from Narnia to try and find where Aslan lives. And along the way, they're just having a bunch of adventures, one after another. And so in that regard, it actually really reminded me of The Hobbit, not the films, sorry. Almost said that. The Hobbit books. The Hobbit books. Oh my gosh, I can't even speak correctly. The Hobbit book one. Like I still have films in my head. And there were 3 films out of 1 book, and OMG, WTF. Why didn't they just make it like 2 movies, if at all? You know, you could have made a good adaptation of The Hobbit. Anyway, we're talking about The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, not about the Hobbit films, but it reminded me of the Hobbit book in the way that every chapter was just kind of like a new adventure, kind of like where Bilbo had the trolls, and then there were the spiders, and then he had to rescue them from the elves, like in barrels, you know, so... Sorry, it took me a second to remember what I was saying. Once again, sorry, can't speak anymore apparently. And that's what this reminded me of. They go to an island. Oh, I don't want to give too much away though. They go to different places and there's different things along the way. So it just really made me want to go on an adventure again. It was really fun. I even bookmarked a couple of pages that had scenes that I really liked that I thought it would be fun with to represent some way artistically, most likely through drawing or something with alcohol ink markers or colored pencils or something like that, just because I really liked the imagery at a couple of points in the book. So by far and so far, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader is definitely my favorite Chronicles of Narnia book. Adventurous, fun, kind of sad at the end, but also really good. And I highly suggest, like, if you're reading the series and you just want to read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, fine, whatever. Honestly, it could be its own standalone book. I feel like you get way more out of the series and the world, obviously, if you read the other ones. And I'm almost on the last one now. I'm so behind on filming these book reviews that like I said, I have maybe 50 pages left of the last book of the Chronicles of Narnia. So I'm trying to think. I do think overall Voyage of the Dawn Treader is my favorite. Yeah. It was just a good, fun adventure story. Definitely still for kids though. You know, there's some silly things where I was like, oh please, like what? But I really liked it. Super fun. Makes me yearn for adventure. I know I repeat myself a lot in these, so I'm trying not to do that as much anymore, but that's all I've been saying. The writing was good. The scenery was good. Thoroughly enjoyed. Highly suggest The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Like I was saying, if you're reading this series and you're struggling through Prince Caspian or something, just wait till you get to The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. It's a lot better. My favorite one of the series. And I guess because this one features a dragon, and I'm not going to say how that comes into play, but there is a dragon in it at some point. Who is my favorite dragon? And I feel like I've talked about dragons before, like what's my favorite mythological creature or whatever. Maybe brought it up when I talked about The Hobbit because Smaug is in there. Smaug is probably not my favorite dragon, to be honest. Since I brought him up, I'm just going to mention him real quick. He is actually not in the book that much, and when he flies out, he does actually get killed very, very quickly. And I was just like, oh, he was a big threat, and like 3 pages later he did. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever. Smaug, okay. There is, I can't remember his name, it's really gonna bother me. In The Children of Hurin, there is a dragon, maybe Glaurung, something like that. That's bad that I can't remember his name, but it's been forever since I read that book. He was an interesting dragon. I think kids book wise, my favorite dragon is probably either Fire Drake from the book Dragon Rider by Cornelia Funk, or Nettlebrand, who's also in that book, because he's just a grumpy, upset, evil old dragon who's just a piss pot. Like, he's just all the time, and it's really funny in my opinion. So I do really enjoy Nettlebrand and the Dragon Rider book by Cornelia Funk. I want to say I feel like there was actually a sequel to that I maybe never read, but don't quote me on that. I'm going to look that up after this. So yeah, those are my favorite dragons. I honestly didn't read a lot of dragon books when I was a kid. I remember reading this one series, and maybe my brother still has the books. I need to look through all his books when I go back home, because it was about how dragons fought in like fighting rings, basically kind of like dogs, it's not good. But this one poor kid finds a dragon egg and starts to raise it and puts it in the field or whatever of fighting dragons. And I just remember that his dragon was mute, which was a huge thing in the story. Like, when it stood up to roar, no sound came out, and everyone was like, LOL, a mute dragon, what a loser. So I remember that being a thing in that book series. I literally don't remember anything about the series. No idea if it's good. No idea what it's called. I have read a couple of, I think it was the Dragon Riders of Pern or something like that. But that was really, really long ago. I don't remember them at all. And so I actually, even though I read heaps of fantasy, that's basically all I read as a kid. I feel like I haven't actually read a lot of books with dragons in them. That's about it. So thank you so much for listening. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Do you have a favorite dragon? If you know what the heck series I'm talking about, go ahead and write it down below. I feel like it was just like some weird obscure series. No idea where my brother got the books. Whatever. Probably from some book fair at school. Those were the best. They need to bring back book fairs for adults at work. Okay? Like, let's just do it. And yes, like, comment, subscribe if you know people who like books or to read. And thank you so much for listening, and y'all have a great day.